Hey YouTube, it's been a while since I presented a video. I guess the Chinese would say I've been living in interesting times, and also, embarrassingly, I've got to admit that the change in YouTube messed me up for a while as well. Anyway, I'm here to let you know about how the situation with my old Jehovah's Witness friend unfolded. And the news is great. She's no longer a witness of Jehovah. I'm not here to recount the twists and turns and every step of her deconversion, but to relay the principal stages of her acceptance of reality and the letting go of damaging mental conditioning. But she's now actively building a new social life and says she's never felt so unburdened, happy and free and without fear to live her life. She's still dealing with the odd pang, and she tells me that sometimes the song comes to her mind and need to be drowned out with something upbeat, secular and nothing to do with genocide. Songs have always been so hypnotic. If you're like me, you'll probably find it easier to remember the lyrics of a 20-year-old song than what you ate last week. I can remember Kingdom melodies long after I realised just how fake and silly they really are. Anyway, I'd like you to consider a thick, strong rope made from many strands. On its own, each individual strand is weak and easily severed, but weaved with many others, the rope of faith is very strong and difficult to break. But in each Jehovah's Witness victim, some strands are more important than others. Some are emotional, and each individual has their own personal rope. This is why some facts presented to some Jehovah's Witnesses often have absolutely no effect. You may have cut a strand, but the rope is still strong, and the strand you cut may have no importance to that person at all. These can consist of many things. For example, if a victim's principal strand is keeping their family together, it won't matter that the cult redefined the meaning of a generation. But if being biblically correct is the thing that's important, then the change in doctrine becomes essential. But even then, that won't be enough on its own. And this is because the Bible doesn't exactly help either. For example, we're all familiar with the biblical scene where the voice from the heavens announces God's pleasure with his Son. But we also have the contradictory verse where Jesus says, "If you see me, you see the Father." Trying to argue these contradictions from the same book is pointless and merely serves to entrench positions where you both defend unprovable dogmas. You become as bad as the witness. In this situation, it's necessary to rise above all of that, because winning arguments doesn't always win minds. The key is that each victim has their own rope made from their own strands. The aim is to identify these items and target your approach to these points. It's the same thing that witnesses do when they try to convert a worldly person. The witness plays on identified motivators such as fear of death, fear of society, or an unreconciled bereavement. Once you've been able to identify these strands of faith, just ask that person why they believe that. What is the basis for that? Why should I believe that too? It's better not to challenge with your own unprovable dogma. Keep the witness evaluating their own position rather than defending their position. When a witness repeats or rehearses their belief, it has the effect of reinforcing it and making those strands stronger. Challenging faith has a reinforcing effect, even if the faith is irrational. For example, try telling me that my kids aren't the best in the world. You'll get a nonsensical but earnest defence of them. And I may not be able to promise total civility, even if you're right. This is why field service has such a strong brainwashing effect, because the witness is forced to defend their faith against mainly unprepared and mostly disinterested people. that are unable to seriously challenge their brittle and ultimately fragile faith. And even then, the witness will run when the faith starts to crack. They'll run back to the group to receive repairs. The better way to approach a witness is to simply ask why their child is the best child. Asking why has the effect of engaging the critical brain circuits. It forces the witness to move away from their script and, crucially, to emphasize with your, in quotes, ignorance. It's called theory of mind. In order to teach you something, they have to come out of their mindset and enter an approximation of yours, where they are slightly more open to logic, and it's only slightly mind, and it can be a slow process, just as in the case of my friend. Also, when asking those questions, disarm the witness by changing the direction of the question away from them. For example, how do I know that the governing body is God's appointed? This keeps them away from ground they feel they must defend. They must approach their belief as an outsider. I've got to say I enjoyed my prolonged but gentle cult deprogramming of my friend, but the hardest part for her was not being offered a replacement dogma. It would have been so much easier for her to walk from one cage to another, but I only offered her the wide world of choice, and that was the hardest transition for her, but one she ultimately relished, when she realised that the criticisms that apply to one cult or religion apply to them all. But before I go, did you know that even God's favourites call Jehovah a liar to his face? Check out Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 7. O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived.